Quite a few Halloweens ago, I went to a party, and it was a party I wasn't expecting to pick up any ladies at. And this is how much I wasn't expecting to pick up ladies. I went in a couple's outfit with my roommate because it was a last-minute thing, and we went as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is a bad picking up ladies outfit. It's basically saying, like, I'm the ugly version of him. Yeah? But at this party, I met this really nice girl. She was like Red Riding Hood, but turning into a werewolf, because you get it. And we hit it off, and we actually started talking for a while. And we talked so much, we got to that point where we were both kind of struggling for like what to say next, because like, connection's here. We just got to keep talking. That's all we got to do. And so she said, what's your favorite Beatles song? And I don't know what happened in my brain there, but I decided to say the worst answer you could possibly say to that. I was like, I like Maxwell's Silver Hammer. You know that song where it's about a guy killing everyone with a silver hammer? Yep, that's my jam. And she pointed at a tattoo that said, "Let it be." I'm like, that's a good one. That's a good one, too. That's a more normal one. But we were still going on well, and then she actually said, like, hey, you know what? And I said, so I was actually struggling. I was like, okay, what's the next part? What's the next thing I can say? Hey, you know, in Vegas, there's that Cirque du Soleil show. That's how they say it in Vegas, Cirque du Soleil. It's all the Beatles songs. And she's like, oh, that's cool. We should go. And this was in L.A. And I was like, what? She's like, next week, let's just go. And I'm like, okay, well, we're a few drinks in, so let's wait. Okay, let's wait on that. And then right at that moment, she went to the bathroom, and Eraserhead came up to me, who was running the party. He was dressed as Eraserhead. And he came up to me, and he said, like, hey, no. And I was like, what? He's like, she's here. I think she's here for me, man. I mean, she traveled here. I think she's sleeping over on my couch. I don't know, things could happen. So, don't. And I was like, we just talked about going to Vegas. Okay. So the rest of the night, I was like, hey, I got to talk to my friend over here, like, being separate, which is, I've learned, is the best thing you could do. Because normally at this stage, I would be like following her around like a puppy, being like, so what do you want to do now? What do you want? But this was just like me being cool and separate. And the next day comes, and I get a text out of nowhere, and she's like, hey, it's the next day. I'm sober. I think we should go to Vegas. I think that should be a thing. And I was like, are you serious? What? You're pretty. What? So I looked at tickets, and I was like, okay, this could be at least an experience. So I got tickets to go to Vegas the next week. And it was enough. It was like on a Friday, so I was like, on Wednesday, I was like, I'm going to make sure this really happened. So I called her up on a Wednesday, and I was like, hey, are you still into going to Vegas this weekend? And she's like, yeah, or I'm naked in my bed right now, so you can come here right now. And I was like, oh, okay, where are you? She said, San Francisco. I'm still in LA. So I get into my car. Right before I get into my car, I first went to my roommate and I asked Dr. Jekyll. I was like, Dr. Jekyll, is this crazy? Should I not drive like 6 to 7 hours to San Francisco right now? And he's like, well, do you have work tomorrow? I said, no. And he's like, I don't see a problem. So I'm like, okay, Mr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll, we both agree on this. So I went into my car. I'm driving there. About halfway there, she gives me a call, and she's like, oh, I can't believe you're doing this. This is so romantic. And you know what? Maybe to help you like drive, I can watch porn and describe it to you. And I was like, okay, all right. So she started watching porn, and she was like, so this pizza guy is coming in. And then the door rings again, and another pizza guy comes in. I'm doing the math. I'm like, how many guys? What are you watching? I'm watching a gay porn. You can stop describing it to me. That was the first maybe red flag. I was like, I don't really know her. I'm just going to keep driving. And I showed up, and at this point, it was about 3 in the morning, almost 4. Because we had talked to each other around 10 p.m. and when I got into my car. And I showed up at the door, and she was right. She was naked and waiting. And I was like, oh, it's real. And so we make out a little bit, and we move over to her bed, and we're making out. And I realize she's a little drunk, and we're making out, and then she falls asleep. And so I try to... I have that sleep every man experiences at one point where they have a beautiful naked woman in their arms and they just have to pretend to sleep next to that woman. Meanwhile, you're just staring at the ceiling trying to be cool the entire time. And in the morning, she wakes up and we have some pillow talk, and we're like, oh, this is cool. We're actually going to like Vegas this weekend. I can't believe we're in San Francisco right now. And we're going to Vegas. We're traveling all over the place. And we start like making jokes about like, oh, let's go see some strippers. Let's go do this. Let's do all the Vegas things. She's like, what do you think about, and I joke about like, let's get a call girl. And she's like, oh, what do you think about call girls? And I'm like, I'm pretty woke. I think they should. I was like, I think they should exist as long as they have health care and maybe be recognized as a legit organization. Sex Workers Unite, you know? And she's like, that's a good answer because I am one. And I go, what? And she's like, yeah, I actually do call girl work. Here's my website. And she shows me the website and her stats and her name. It's just the same. And I was like, cool. Okay, cool. So she's like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom now. I'm like, all right, okay, cool. And she goes to the bathroom, and I'm there. I'm just like, okay, all right. And I stand up, and I start like kind of pacing around. And I was like, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know if I'm suddenly going to get charged for something. I don't know nothing has happened. I don't know and I start hearing her talk in the bathroom to someone. And I'm like, oh my God, is she talking to her pimp? Is this what I don't know. I'm woke, but I don't know what's happening. And she's continued to talking, and I just knock on the door, and she lets me in, and she's sitting in her bathtub, and she's just crying, and she's talking on her phone. And it turns out she's talking to her therapist. And she tells me she's the first person she's ever told that she does call girl work. So I just sit down next to her, next to the tub, and I just hold her hand as she's in the tub, just in this like lukewarm bath. And we sit there for a while. Eventually we go out and get breakfast. And she's like, so what do you know anyone in San Francisco? And I was like, no, not really. And she's like, so are you planning on staying the night here? I was like, yeah, well, that's why I drove all night. She's like, okay. Here's the thing, I didn't actually know you were going to come here. I actually have a client coming tonight. And I realized, oh, I just met up with you in a hotel room. So I'm like, okay. And she's like, here's the thing, I don't know if we're going to actually spend the night. We might just like go out on a date. Sometimes we just do that. And I'm like, okay, well, can you text me and let me know? And she's like, okay. So I just start wandering the wharf. And around this time, it's November, and there's a saxophone player just in the foggy wharf that just starts playing, these are a few of my favorite things. And I'm like, okay, that's a bit on the nose. So I text her, I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but be like stupid cute and be like, so, hey, you gotta let me know. Should I stay or should I go? And I wait a little bit, see the dots, and then it pops up, yeah, it looks like you might want to go, he's staying. So I get into my car, And I drive all the way back to LA. And we talk the next day, and we're okay. But she also says, oh, it looks like he is leaving. You can come back. But at that point, I'm already halfway down to LA. So instead, I go to a cupcake convention with my ex. And that's the story about how I spent $200 on a call girl in Las Vegas without having sex with her or ever going to Las Vegas. Thank you.